All right. The session is, the time is now to diversify what agents should know about short-term care, long-term care, and much, much more. So my name is Dennis Rinner. I'm the moderator for today's panel. I'm Director of Strategic Accounts for GoldenCare. GoldenCare has been around 50 years, just celebrated our 50th anniversary last year. And we're excited to be here. And I'm going to have Todd introduce himself.
Thank you, Dennis. Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Todd Tippets, and I'm the president of Standard Life and Casualty, which is a division of ManhattanLife. And I've been in the industry for approximately 25 to 30 years with a focus in ancillary, Medicare, and other key individual life and health insurance products. Looking forward to the time together today.
Good deal. Michael Gende with GTL Insurance, and I literally have dedicated my life towards researching sales, motivation, and everything else that goes with trying to be successful.
Excellent. So maybe just to set the table a little bit, I'm going to lead off, and then we'll kind of go back and forth between both Todd and Michael. We want to make this as interactive as possible, and we're going to leave time at the very end for questions. So I want you to think about this. This statement I'm going to share with you. Ken Dykewald, who's one of the leading gerontologists in the country and the best-selling author of books such as Age Wave, Age Power, and others, I think those were the only two I read, he said this. He said, 2/3 of everyone who is age 65 or older in the world today is actually alive today. He said, because throughout history, most people didn't age, they died. And so if you go back in time and you look at the Roman era, the average life expectancy in the Roman era was ages 22 to 33. I guess it depends on the lion's appetite during that time, because the Christians didn't live as long as the lions. And when you think about that, and you think about the fact that, fast forward to today, that the average 65-year-old has a 50% chance, if they make it to 65, of living to age 90. So the reality, yeah, there you go. All right, longevity. So, you think if you think about this idea that most of the time, not always, people are not going to die quickly. They're going to, in fact, lingering, and it's the lingering that causes the greatest concern, because those turning 65 today have up to a 70% chance of needing some form of care or assistance, and yet, when we think about them needing care or assistance, 61% during that COVID year said that they would have rather died than gone into a nursing home. And 90%, and this is really why I think we need to really think about this theme of this breakout session, 90% have never had a serious conversation about this topic that we like to call extended care planning. So this is a very underserved market, and we know that by 2030, when the last of the baby boomers are now starting to age in, what's going to happen is that these 73 million Americans that are 65, representing 20% of our population, they're going to need your help. And so with this paradigm shift in recent years, as far as some of the changes, we built our business on long-term care, had some great success in the long-term care space over those 40-plus years. And I want to just kind of pivot over to Todd and ask him a question about the shifting market with this paradigm shift with products like short-term care, and why did a carrier like Manhattan jump into this space? Could you talk a little bit about what plan design, whether it's Manhattan or just in general, because there is other carriers in the industry in this space. If you can maybe just go through and give us a little bit of an overview, and then we'll poll the audience on how many have actually been selling any of these products, or how many actually sold previous products like long-term care. So we'll come back to that.
Great. Thank you very much, Dennis. What a great introduction, and there's a lot that we can build on here. In addition to the aging population, people really are going to need care, and as you can imagine, I'm not stating anything very new, that care in a facility or at home is extremely expensive. And so the way we looked at it at ManhattanLife that I think really goes across the industry and hopefully will be a couple of nice nuggets of information for you is that if you sat down and removed any carrier from the conversation, I think if we surveyed 100 people, 100 of us would agree that every single citizen in the United States should have long-term care insurance. However, when you do that, so let's start with that basis, right, that we all agree with. However, there are some major problems with that hypothesis. Number one, and probably not in any particular order, long-term care insurance is extremely expensive. The average long-term care policy, depending on what you buy, can be as high as $2,000 a month. There's probably some policies out there that are even more, but you're usually looking at $800, $1,200, $1,500, $1,600 a month. So long-term care, first barrier to entry is cost. Second barrier is because of the large payouts in long-term care over an unknown duration of someone's life, the premiums, we talked about the premiums, the underwriting is extremely challenging, okay? Because they are trying to protect the right balance of claims and premiums. So you take those two things of premium and you take that in terms of underwriting. Typical long-term care plans typically are accepting about 50% of the applicants that apply for coverage, okay? Then there's another fact that we all, if we can move past in this room, that none of us like to talk about death either, right? However, in this industry, we need to a little bit. And there's studies out there that the average stay that a person has in a nursing home, I've seen 3 to 4 kind of national studies, and they all fall in the 12 to 18 month range, the average length of time that somebody stays in a nursing home. So we took those three nuggets of information and felt like this extended care market that Dennis has referred to is a great area to play in, and have designed a plan that really addresses each one of those. And we'll probably dive into some more details as we go back and forth on questions, but I'll say, first of all, we've designed a plan in what we refer to as OmniFlex short-term care that is having a high acceptance rate. Just about 90%, a little bit over 90% of the people that apply are accepted for coverage. The average premium for an individual is very flexible, but most people are picking products in about the $200 to $400 a month range for coverage, and that's providing them care in a nursing home for 1 year, which is typically what the average length of stay is anyway. So really, that's what I think, and it's not just ManhattanLife, it's GTL and other carriers in the industry. There's been this realization that we hope that you can now realize as agents, that there is now a way to really address the majority of the concerns that people have of wanting long-term care insurance but not being able to qualify for it, that they now have an alternative that they can pursue and provide great financial protection to themselves.
That's great. And before we have Michael jump in and talk about one of the other solutions, which is on the home care spectrum, what Todd's talking about today is that this part of this paradigm shift was that consumers and agents were finally aligned, really wanting the same 3 objectives. They wanted to have products that had less underwriting. They wanted to have products that had less moving parts. And what you'll find about these short-term care products is they don't have the complexity that long-term care has, and that they're more affordable, 30 to 40, and sometimes 50% lower in cost. So how many back in the day, back when selling long-term care, it was never easy, but when it was easier based on the acceptance, if I could see a show of hands of how many have actually sold back in the day. How many are still selling today? Okay, so the hands, there's a few. So Michael, when we're talking about those who are primarily in the Medicare space, and we start attaching any form of underwriting, and even though Todd will get into a little bit more about some of that less underwriting approach that these products have, what is it about home care? And GTL was one of the early on creators in that short-term home care space. What is it about those products that become so attractive to the Medicare market and to those agents?
So, and what we really want to have happen today, you guys, if you're able to take away 2 or 3 ideas and say, hey, you know what, I'm going to implement these tomorrow or next week, this will be of value for you. So when it comes to short-term home health care when it comes to hospital indemnity, there is what's called the 30-60-90 rule. And what that rule states is that if you enroll your client in one plan, say a Medicare Advantage plan, and that's the only plan you enroll them in, you will have that client for life 30% of the time. If you enroll them in an additional plan, say a hospital indemnity, a home health care or short-term care plan, that number doubles to 60%. And if you put a third policy with that individual, all of a sudden that jumps up that retention rate. 90% of those clients will be with you for life. And that means you're going to be getting residuals for life, and you're going to be getting referrals from them for life. So the diversification that we're talking about today is so important for growing and protecting, building a moat around your block of business by adding these additional policies to them.
Excellent. So on the home care side, Todd, you want to jump in on some additional comments on that? And
That 30-60-90 rule, I think, is a great thing to think about in terms of now take that data as an agent and think about your renewal stream and just do some simple calculations of what your income might be if you double or triple the retention of some of your current blocks of business from a renewal perspective. And then one other statistic that I would share, Dennis, if you don't mind, that applies to all of this, that to me, I've told people we all hear data in this industry, but I truthfully, as I share this, I think this is one of the most intriguing statistics I've heard in the last 5 years. They did a survey and they asked people in their 30s and 40s, how many of you believe that when you turn 65 or older are going to need care at home or in a nursing home? If we were a smaller group, we'd maybe do some hands and some guesses. It was 29%. You want to know what the reality is of people over the age of 65 that need care in a nursing home or in an assisted living facility or at home? It's 70 to 75%. That disparity is where you as agents can play a significant role to help them identify the problem, the need, and to help them fill that need now while they still qualify before it's too late.
thank you, Todd. You know, I want to come back to the short-term care for just a quick second and maybe contrast that to the little mini survey we did about long-term care. In the traditional long-term care space, most of those products, and hybrids are some exceptions to this rule, are reimbursement-based. And one of the great characteristics about both the home care products and also the short-term care products is that they are basically cash products, indemnity-based. So you're not buying necessarily a pool of money, you're buying a defined benefit that you actually have, both for the facility side and for the home care side. And the other contrast is that these products today, Todd, are unisex rates, correct?
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
You want to pick up on that?
Sure. So yes, to highlight a little bit about what Dennis is saying, I think a few of the things I would add are, one, they're designed in such a way that they are unisex rates. Number two, from an underwriting perspective, we and other carriers are looking at kind of, again, what are the things we've learned over the last 30 or 40 years of long-term care? I've already highlighted several of them. A few others I'll highlight are, one, that most people don't utilize a plan in the first 5 or 10 years that they have a plan. And so we've designed a plan that really accommodates that understanding and makes the plan more affordable and can grow with inflation protection over time. We have simplified the underwriting. For those of you that have sold hospital indemnity or final expense products, I would tell you that the underwriting is very similar to those kind of simplified underwriting questions. It will ask those simplified underwriting questions, and it will then do a drug check, and really is a quick turnaround from an underwriting perspective that then allows for that greater flexibility around acceptance. And then, Dennis, I didn't know if you wanted me to get into the indemnity side of it too, or if you wanted to kind of follow up with me or Michael with another question.
Yeah, I think another question along the same lines is that one of the similarities to hybrids or traditional long-term care is that the rate that you start with or the age that you start with is the age that you stay with. But Michael, if we contrast that on the home care side, and whether we're talking GTL or Manhattan or any other carriers, what is it about to keep those plans affordable that the carriers have done to make those affordable?
All right, so I do want to mention something about the short-term home health care plans. Just about every carrier has a plan, and they're all very, very similar. So we're not up here trying to say, buy ours. What we're trying to do is to say, hey, you know what? Represent the plan itself. Make sure that your clients are getting the information that they need so that they can say, hey, you know what? Yeah, I should get signed up for this short-term home health care plan. One of the ways to keep the rates super reasonable is the carriers, we all have attained rates, whereas every 5 years the premium does increase, but it makes it very, very affordable to your clients. Here's something where it comes to short-term home health care that's, how do you bring it up to your clients? Here's a word track that you can use, and you can literally say to all of your Medicare Advantage clients that you have, so you have this huge a suitcase of leads already that you're not paying for, you've already got them, and you say something along the lines of, hey Bob, hey Julie, this is Michael from XYZ Insurance Company. I took care of you for your Medicare Advantage plan. I wanted to let you know that all of my clients wish that they had a long-term care plan. All of my clients wish that they had a long-term care plan. Unfortunately, so many of them can't afford it, and those that can afford it, they may not be able to qualify. I've got a plan here that it is not a long-term care plan. It is not a long-term care plan, but what it can do is pay you up to $450 per day for up to 360 days for you to recuperate in your own home. Does this sound like something you'd like me to share with you, some information? And then, of course, they're going to say yes. And then almost all carriers have videos, a short 2.5-minute video that you can then send to them, and they can watch the video. Or if you're hand in hand with them, you can just play it right then and there. And that's literally your whole sales presentation. And then you just sign them up.
Yeah, boy, that's you can sign me up. That sounds pretty darn easy, Michael. And I'm going to tell you, one of the other things I think is the secret sauce to these plans is whether, and it's not, again, all the carriers have similarity in these designs, is, the average 65-year-old has, takes 27 medications, either refills or prescriptions. And what these carriers have done, because the carriers understand also breakage in the plan design, is they've attached a RX prescription drug reimbursement benefit. And again, whether it's GTL or Manhattan, I like to call that the premium justifier. And in many cases, Michael, when you talked about that 5-year ramp up, in those early first 5 years, you can mitigate, can't you, a great deal of that premium?
Yeah, this is just, for those of you that are not familiar with short-term home health care, please reach out to your carrier and become familiar with it, because it's just literally, if you bring it up to your client, you're going to have a 70 to 90% closing ratio because of the fact what Dennis just said and that Todd was talking about earlier, in that, so say a plan that is going to pay them $450 per day for up to 360 days, that plan typically is going to cost about $900 per year. And it ends up that it comes with a up to $900 per year prescription drug benefit, whereas they're going to pay $10 for every generic prescription, $25 for every name brand prescription and refill, up to the $900. Or you can get a lower level, $600 or $300. All plans are very, very similar, but it ends up that it's almost a no-cost plan because of this prescription drug plan. And to file for the prescription drug plan, all they need is they literally can call their pharmacist and say, hey, could you print out the prescription drugs that I've received in the last 12 months? And they send that into their carrier along with a claim form. And the claim form is literally 5 items: name, address, policy number, phone number, and you're done. And what this does for you, the agent, is it gives you the perfect opportunity. They have 12 months to file the claim, so there's no rush, but it gives you, the agent, the perfect opportunity to call your client. Hey, Bob, hey, Julie, this is Michael from XYZ Agency. Did you file your claim yet for your prescription drug? No, we have not done that. Well, let's do this. Call your pharmacist, have them print out the list of drugs you've received in the last 12 months, bring it into my office. They bring it into your office, you sit down with them, you then mail it into them, fill out the claim form, which takes about 30 seconds, but now you've got them in front of you, and now this is the perfect time to do an ABR, annual benefits review, with them. So all of a sudden, it gives you a contact point, and then within a couple of weeks, they're receiving this check for $300, $600, or up to $900. Super advantageous for you as an agent and for the client. Win-win.
Excellent. And Michael, Todd and his company liked that RX prescription drug reimbursement so much that you actually put it on what product, Todd?
On our short-term extended care product.
Yes.
So now you can double dip. And we, when you reach out to the carrier or the representatives that you work with, your various partner offices, we can talk about the idea of going in, as Michael said, that stickiness of that relationship when you sell more than one product, and you can go in there and basically teach them how they can own both products and maximize that prescription drug reimbursement. But Todd, I want to come back to three things that we've seen in the marketplace as part of this paradigm shift, looking for products today that have less underwriting. And by the way, Michael, how easy is it to qualify for those home care products?
Yeah, there's three questions you have to be able to say no to. Are you currently in a nursing home, assisted living facility, or in the hospital, or receiving home health care? Nope. Good. Go on to question number 2. Are you cognitively impaired or been diagnosed with dementia? Nope. Are you unable to perform your activities of daily living? Nope. Guess what? You've qualified for the plan. That's simple for all the plans out there.
Excellent. Hey, Todd, I want to come back to the underwriting, because sometimes people think this misinformation that, hey, there's still invasive underwriting with these short-term care products. And I'd like you to spend just a minute or so and talk about the ease of turnaround of that process of the underwriting in the short-term care. And also, again, maybe speak high level as to this concept of the simplicity behind it, because we want to talk about kind of three things. We want to talk about simplicity, things where these products are simple to learn, even simpler to explain. We want to talk about easiness of getting them, and we want to talk about fast. So let's start with the simple.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dennis. From a simple perspective, I know I've referred to a couple products that you may be familiar with, whether it's hospital indemnity or cancer or a final expense product. From an underwriting and application and a learning perspective, it really is that simple. With a short-term care plan or an extended care plan, like we refer to our plan as OmniFlex short-term care, really what you're doing is you're selling an indemnity package to your client. You're picking, number one, how much daily coverage do they want in a hospital? Okay, between $50 and $400 a day. The average today in the United States is about $300, okay? Number two, you're picking how long do you want the coverage for? Do you want coverage for 3, 6, 9, or 12 months of coverage? And then the final thing is we have something in the long-term, short-term care space that's our own version of a deductible, and it's called your elimination period. And that's just really how much do you as the client have to pay the bill at the nursing home before your plan benefits kick in. So it's truly that simple. You just have to have that conversation, pick those 3 benefits options. It gives you a wide variety of prices that you can play with. And that's really kind of what it does. And then you can pick some of the riders, et cetera, if you're getting into inflation riders or hospital indemnity riders. So that's the simplicity standpoint, Dennis. I don't know if you want me to continue with any of the ease or the quickness, or if you want to
talk about. Why don't you take ease? Easy to get. You talked a little bit about that with the placement rate. Think about that. We're talking about the average purchase age is in the mid-60s buying this particular plan, and ages both across the board with these products go from the mid-40s all the way up to 89. But talk about that approval process, because there is a few questions that you have to ask, but how easy that is.
Right. Again, for context, for those of you that aren't as experienced with long-term care, it can often be a 1 week or a 2 week process for underwriting for long-term care, can sometimes include a medical exam, can sometimes include blood work, etc., a cognitive test. With these short-term care plans, it really is just answering underwriting questions in the electronic app and submitting it. Those questions are reviewed, a drug report is pulled, and then the underwriting is processed usually within 1 to 3 business days, depending on the individual. So it's a completely different experience for you as an agent, and it's a completely different experience for your client with that ease of underwriting and simplicity.
That's great. Michael, GTL has been a carrier that has, and I know we're not trying to talk carrier specific, but I will just tell you, I've been so impressed over the years about their speed of issue in terms of some of the things that they've put in place. Could you talk about why a fast approval process? Because it is frustrating if you have sold long-term care and it's 4 to 6 weeks, and then you get that magical phone call from the carrier that says, oh, your client's been declined. You get a few of those and you're done with selling products that you don't make money on submission. But why is that fast a turnaround time? And then we want to leave a few minutes for questions, so we'll wrap it up with a couple final comments. After your comment, I'll share a few things and we'll turn it over for questions.
Perfect. So we've got straight-through processing, and most carriers have it, whereas there's, let's talk just for a second on hospital indemnity, all right? This is very important. Any agents out here that are not enrolling their clients in a hospital indemnity plan, I applaud you, because you have a great opportunity to increase your business, okay? Because all of these people that have a Medicare Advantage plan, but you have not signed them up for a hospital indemnity plan, it's the perfect time to reach out to them. And it sounds something a little bit like this. Hey, most of my clients have been concerned when they go into the hospital, they've got $300 per day for the first 5 days that they have to pay, which is a plan that you've got also, Julie. I've got a plan that is very low cost that I've done the research on. I've fallen in love with it, and it will pay you $350 per day every day you're in the hospital. And would you like to hear about it? And again, send them the videos that we have. But it's got straight-through processing. If it's not guaranteed issue, and we all have guaranteed issue ages, straight-through processing, if they answer 5 questions no, automatically they're approved. While you're sitting in their home with them, they are covered. Here's one thing I want to say real fast about the percentage. Take a guess at what percentage of people that own a Medicare Advantage plan also have a hospital indemnity plan to go with it that will pay for their daily copay. Tell me some percentages. 10%, close, lower, 5%, close, lower, 3%, close, lower, 1%, close, lower. It's just under 1% of people that have a Medicare Advantage plan actually have a hospital indemnity plan. So again, great opportunity for all of us to get people enrolled in the hospital indemnity plans.
Excellent. Hey, a couple final thoughts on this. And Michael gave a great explanation about why you should be doing this. And I want to just kind of, whether you're going to sell home care only plans or whether you're going to sell short-term care, keep in mind the short-term care plans, unlike long-term care, there's no 90-day certification. So someone who breaks a hip, has a fall or fracture, they'll actually use this coverage. And there's an ability for them to get restoration with this. And if we had more time, we could go into the whole moon form about Medicare observation outpatient notice and all the reasons why, again, it makes such perfect sense. But I want to kind of give you just a very quick track. And we've got tracks on how actually to do this. But remember, what you're talking to your client about when you go out and sell Medicare is their immediate care coverage, right? That's the coverage that they're going to use day in and day out. But the reality is, there's the other coverage that you haven't shared with them, which is the other half of the loaf, if you so to speak. And that's the extended care coverage, because extended care coverage picks up where Medicare leaves off. And it helps with expenses that Medicare is not going to cover. And I'm going to tell you, if you keep it that simple, when you want to start that conversation to say, listen, I've handled all your immediate care needs. Now I want to talk to you about your extended care needs. And you go through that dialogue. You know what? You do this once or twice, you're going to have it down. These products are easy because you don't get tripped up over all the moving parts that we've talked about. And remember, at the end of the day, your clients, they don't always buy what they need, but I can almost assure you that they will always buy what they want. And the key is you've got to get them to want these particular solutions. So the last thing I'll leave you with, and we'll turn it over for some questions, is remember, there's 3 M's when it comes to extended care planning. The first M is you are the messenger. So think about that. Michael talked about your relationship with your clients. They've trusted you. They've known you for years. They rely upon you. So you are their go-to resource. The message today that you're delivering is it's purpose-driven. It's not product-driven. You don't want to lead. Michael talked about getting people to lean in by talking about the benefits of ownership. And finally, the third is money. A lot of seniors today have been either priced out of or underwritten out of some of these other solutions. And so you need to find where affordability lives. And when you find that neighborhood, don't ever leave it, because you don't want to oversell that proposition. So with that, I don't know, is there, can someone see those questions?
I can see them. I can see them.
Okay.
So I'll
How
hit
come
some
you
of
have
these.
such good vision for such an old guy like you?
Yeah, I know. It's pretty amazing. So that's one bonus point for me. So a couple of questions that we've seen come up. Most of these plans are available, as you've heard, from the early 40s to the late 80s for sale. Another question has been, is there any GI? There are not GI opportunities for home care or short-term care at this time. People have asked about, does this impact their Part D plan or their MAPD plan from a drug perspective? The answer is a resounding no. If they are filling a prescription on their own or with any other type of medical plan or Medicare insurance plan, they can submit that claim for reimbursement. Let me hit some of the other questions here.
Please.
Do carriers pay after 80 years old? We'll pay on insurance. Yes, I know at our company we pay on any sale over age 80 as well. And I see Michael nodding his head. What else? I think we've covered most of them on this page. I don't know if there's any others that we need to scroll down and see. If the medications cost $250 a month, the home care plan, I better skip that because I'm not sure I understand it. The bottom line is that these are indemnity reimbursements. It does not matter how much your drug costs. It does not matter what your copay is. It doesn't matter what your out-of-pocket is. If it's a generic prescription, these plans reimburse you $10. If it's a brand prescription, it reimburses you $25.
And from a premium standpoint, just to give you a perspective, so Michael talked about a $450 a day GTL plan. If you bought a GTL plan that was $150 a day and you were a 65-year-old senior today, you'd pay probably $20 a month. You can buy short-term care for a 65-year-old on those low-end plans of $100 a day, in the $50 to $60 a month range. So keep in mind that these plans are extremely affordable. They have a high placement. They're fast turnaround time. And I'm telling you, it's a game changer for you to go out and start that conversation. This underserved market is demanding that you be the go-to resource. The last thing I want you, and this is a little bit of a thought-provoking question, but think about this. What you consume consumes you. What you consume consumes you. What are you about? Do you have your blinders on and you basically are going to allow your competition to jump in and be that resource? Your clients need these solutions. And these 65, 70, 75, 80-year-olds, they don't have to be in perfect health. They don't have to run sub 4-minute miles to get coverage. It's amazing, isn't it, Todd, when you talk about that 90-plus persistency? Michael, any final thoughts?
Sure, I'll give one final thought, and that's my favorite quote of all time. And that quote is, everything you want is sitting on the other side of fear. Everything you have ever wanted is just sitting on the other side of fear. Let's not let fear hold us back from getting what we want. And fear, if you spell it F-E-A-R, what it actually stands for is false evidence appearing real. Most of the stuff that we're fearful of will never come into play. Sometimes we'll be like, I'm afraid to ask for referrals for this client because then they won't consider that I'm a consultant. They will think that I'm begging for business. No, that's not the case at all. You just have to know the right way to do it. But let's not let fear stop us in any ventures that we're doing.
Thank you so much, Todd. We're seeing the sign here that says
We're
your
good.
time is over.
Thank you
Please
for your
end the
time.
session
We're happy
now.
to answer any
Thank you very
questions
much,
for you
everyone.
after the session. Thank you.